Come on, get fired up from the inside out. Yes, welcome to another episode of FTIO. Now, let's be honest, things don't always go as planned. I remember after graduating high school, I went to San Francisco State. I wanted to get a degree in business, and I wanted to be this like big time CEO, hip hop mogul, right? I had all these different dreams and all these different plans. All right, I was out there really trying to go big and just really do it big. And after a year of being at State, it didn't work out for me. Like I had all these different struggles and challenges, and I ended up, leaving San Francisco State. And then I got into a serious relationship. And I really wanted to make a good impression on my girlfriend's parents. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about, or nod at the camera if you know what I mean. So I wanted to make a good impression, and for them, it was either about healthcare or law enforcement. So I was like, well, let me see what I can do. I was looking around for certain programs, and at a local college, there was this new apprentice program for psychiatric technicians at a hospital named Napa State Hospital. And so I ended up taking the program, and after the program was done, I passed my state boards, and then I had my state job. I'm in my early 20s. I have, good pension, I have good salary, I have good benefits, right? Everything that you could ask for. And it was crazy because I remember, now that I think about it, I ended up getting the job 1 month before my benefits, my medical benefits, ended under my parents. So it was a big accomplishment, and I thought, oh, this is awesome. I'm gonna do this, for the 40 plus years. This is where I'm gonna retire, and that was the plan. Right, that was the plan, and that was it, and that's all I had set in my mind, and I figured this was where I'm supposed to be. But it wasn't until 11 years later, yes, 11 years later, for those of you who know my story, I decided that I wanted something more from my life. I decided that I felt that there was a deeper call for me. There was a deeper call for me to do something, something bigger. Now, no disrespect to anybody that works in healthcare or even there at Napa State Hospital, but for me, right, I just felt like I was coming in and day out, doing the same things over and over, and I just kind of felt like a zombie. Right? I always use the term Napa State zombie because it was like I clock in, I clock out, I get mandated for overtime, and then after a while, doing this over and over and over and over, it just wasn't in my heart anymore. It just wasn't in my heart, despite the good pay, despite the good schedule, despite, even the medical benefits. There was something in my heart that was like, this is not for me. And so I was disrupted, right? My plans were disrupted. Things didn't go as planned. And so when I think of the word disrupted, it reminds me of, I was listening to Eric Thomas the other day, and he says, disruptions either distract you or develop you. Right? Once again, disruptions either distract you or develop you. And so I kind of took it a step further, and as I was reflecting and thinking about that, I thought, yeah, God disrupts to develop. Let me say that one more time. God disrupts to develop. And when I was thinking about this, and for a moment I was like, well, let's see, I was there for 11 years at Napa State Hospital. My plans were disrupted. And they were disrupted because there was something bigger in my heart. There was something like my heart wanted more. My heart just wanted to work with youth and wanted to work with young people. So after that 11 years at Napa State Hospital, I was still working at the church part-time as a youth minister. I'm still currently doing that now. And then I found an organization called Soul Shop, where we worked in the middle schools and the elementary schools doing some social emotional learning. And so I was thinking, why here? Why now? What does this disruption mean? And so as I reflect and think about it, the disruption was to help me develop my skills, not just as a facilitator, but just to be doing the work that I'm feeling called to do. Right? So God disrupted my plans to develop me in a different way so I can go and take everything that He's gifted and blessed me with and take into the world. Now, of course, that's a pretty huge example of how I got disrupted and just walking away from the job and taking that risk and taking that leap of faith. But I will say this, right? How many times do we get disrupted in our life, but that disruption actually turns into a distraction? Right? So when I think about the other saying, so if God disrupts to develop, then the devil distracts, or he disrupts to distract, right? The devil disrupts to distract you. And so I'm thinking to myself, am I distracted or am I being developed? And that's the question that I want to share with you all today. When you think about all the things in your life, all the disruptions that you've had, and all the plans that you made that were disrupted, right? Were you distracted or were you developed? Right? Were you distracted or were you developed? Now, when I think about that, I think, well, the only way that I can, know the difference is how I react and how I respond to that. So if I look at a disruption in my life and I let it take me away from the bigger picture, or if I let it take me away from what matters the most to me, or if I, let that take me away from what's at stake, then yes, I'm being distracted. But if I let that disruption redirect me, take me another way, if I let that disruption actually develop me to develop, more patience, to develop more strength, to develop more endurance, to actually develop a different set of eyes to see what else is out there, then that's God's plan for me. That's God's work right there. So the question I have is, every disruption that you have in your life, is it distracting you or is it developing you? Is it distracting or developing? I believe that God disrupts our lives so that we can be developed. And I always think about, things being developed. We have to constantly be developed. We'll never stop growing. We'll never stop learning. So I think about this process, and it's always going to be a process. So if there's something in your life right now that you're struggling with, if there's something in your life right now that, isn't going to plan as according to your plan, or if something just isn't happening, or if you're feeling like all these disruptions are happening here and there and everywhere, take a moment, breathe, and think about that. What is it that God is trying to develop in you? What is it that God is trying to develop in that situation? Because if you stay distracted, you're going to lose focus. And if you lose focus and you don't keep your eye on the prize, you're going to fall apart. Things are going to get tough. Things are going to get even more hard. So my message for you today is really simple. God disrupts to develop. God disrupts to develop. And the only way we're going to see what God is trying to develop is if we remember to realize with our real eyes. And I just want to say that even for myself, I'm still being developed in so many different ways. We are constantly going to be developed, but the choice is ours. Do we want to be developed or do we want to be distracted? Thank you for taking the time to check this video out. Once again, we are dropping one every Sunday for the whole year. My goal is to hit 52. We're on number 18. Thank you again. Have a great rest of the week. Pray for me and I'll pray for you. Your boy's out of here. Late.